Agent Gabriel Rivera.
Good morning. Please state your name.
Good morning, Gabriel. Gabriel Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera Fimbres. This is the time set for your initial appearance. You are here on charges of aggravated assault, armed robbery, aggravated robbery, and kidnapping. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to be represented by an attorney. I am appointing the legal defender's office to represent you, and there is counsel seated next to you for the purposes of today's hearing. I have reviewed information provided about you by pretrial services. I have reviewed the interim complaint, providing some information about the alleged offenses. And I have reviewed the state's recommendation that you be held on a bond of $50,000 based on the use of a deadly weapon, and the nature of the offenses. Do you need to be heard further, Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, the state needs to emphasize the fact, or needs to make clear to the court its position that this involved a deadly weapon and a person being terrified for 2 straight hours whilst they were driving, who was just trying to make a living driving Uber. And it's not entirely clear why there's no weapons misconduct charges yet, because if my math is correct, this person is not over the age at which he can own a pistol. And the state is absolutely adamant that release to mom's custody is absolutely futile because she could not obviously control this kid to begin with.
Thank you. Defense.
Yes, I noticed the emphasis on the firearm from Mr. Poston, and given that I understand where he's coming from with that, but reading the interim complaint, it seems like Mr. Rivera is also just as adamant that it is a simulated deadly weapon, which of course would not have much difference in the charges here, but has a massive difference in the appropriate release conditions in this case. Given that he's not charged with a misconduct with a firearm, that implies to me that this is probably going to be a simulated deadly weapon case. I don't know. I don't predict the future, so I could be wrong. But given his lack of juvenile history, given his lack of any felony history prior, his age, I would ask that he be released to enhanced pretrial services. If a bond is appropriate, I'd ask that it be no more than $1,500, Your Honor.
Your Honor?
Yes, Mr. Poston.
I'd wager to say it's pretty likely that the victim here didn't know it was a fake gun. So the terror it instilled in that person was just as real if it was a bona fide weapon. And again, this person is a danger. He apparently sees no problem in pulling a gun and taking somebody on a 2-hour hell ride.
All right. I do have concerns about the safety of the community and the victim, so I am going to order a bond, but because the defendant is only 17, I am going to order a $5,000 bond that is cash or secured, released to pretrial services if that bond is posted. No alcohol or illegal drugs, no firearms or weapons. If there do happen to be any firearms in your possession, sir, you do have to release or surrender those to law enforcement. You may have no contact with the alleged victim and do not return to the incident location. Your next court date is going to be a preliminary hearing on March 10th at 1:30. That is at Pima County Justice Court. If you are still in custody, the jail will make you available for that hearing. If you are released, it will be your responsibility to appear. If you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You're excused for today.
Your Honor, was that 5,000 or 1,500? I didn't quite hear.
5,000.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Good morning. Please state your name.
Danny, told me. Danny Salazar.
Mr. Salazar, this is the time for your initial appearance. You are here on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated robbery, armed robbery, and kidnapping. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to be represented by an attorney, and I am appointing the public defender's office to represent you. You also have counsel seated next to you today for the purposes of this hearing. I have reviewed information provided by pretrial services. I reviewed the interim complaint, providing a little bit of detail about the charges. And I have reviewed the state's recommendation that you be held on a bond of $50,000 plus pretrial services if posted. And I've heard the argument provided for your co-defendant by the state. Mr. Poston, do you have anything to add?
No, other than to reinforce that the victim had no idea it may or may not have been not a real weapon, and the matter of a couple of months should not make the difference between a token bond and a substantial bond. State renews its recommendation at 50,000.
Thank you. Defense?
I have the same recommendation as the last of the co-defendant, Your Honor. This is something, again, both defendants in this matter are emphasizing that it was a simulated deadly weapon. He does not have any criminal history either with the juvenile system or as a felony as an adult. And the big difference between this and his co-defendant is both are alleging that the co-defendant is the one that held either the firearm or the simulated deadly weapon. So Mr. Salazar himself was never the one that had either a firearm or a simulated deadly weapon in there. I'm not going to go into argument on whether he knew anything that was going to be happening, but I do think he has an even stronger argument for pretrial services. I think if a bond is appropriate, it should be less than $5,000 here.
Thank you. If this had been going on for 5 minutes, I might agree, but because it was going on for 2 hours, I am going to order the same release conditions. I'm going to order a bond of $5,000, cash or secured pretrial services if the bond is posted. Sir, if you do post bond, you may not possess or consume alcohol or illegal drugs. You may not possess any firearms or weapons. If there do happen to be any firearms in your possession, you must surrender them to local law enforcement. You will submit to monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial services, have no contact with the alleged victim, not return to the incident location. Your next court date is going to be March 10th at 1:30. That's for a preliminary hearing. That's at Pima County Justice Court. If you are in custody, the jail will make you available. If you have posted bond and been released, it will be your responsibility to appear. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Thank you. You're excused.
Attorney reaching out. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Further. Okay.
Your Honor, this is the jail, if I may.
Yeah.
They did make Mr. Bonfield available. Would you like to see him?
Let me take a quick look here. Was this just a review?
It's a city court case.
Oh, the city.